Motivation has a battery life to it. You might be motivated for a week, two, maybe a month, but when you get determined, you have this resolute fire inside of you that it doesn't matter. You are going to do whatever it takes.
How do you build a network, run a profitable business, and make an impact? Oh, and have a personal life at the same time? That's the question, and this podcast is the answer. I'm your host, Chaz Wilson, husband, father of five, author of the book 5+1, president and co-founder of Master Networks, Inc., a national networking organization. Look, each week I bring you successful entrepreneurs who will share success strategies of how to effectively build a network, add valuable wisdom to your journey, and help you succeed. Welcome to Connect, Share, and Prosper.
Hey everybody, welcome to Connect, Share, Prosper. I am so excited today. Listen, if you're listening to this and you're driving in your car, you're either going to need to pull over or go back and listen and take notes. Guys, you're going to want to pay special attention today with my guest. Today on Connect, Share, Prosper, I have Ryan Lee. He is married, father of three, lives in Utah. He, by the way, loves hiking, fishing. I just got back from Alaska just before we hit record. We were talking about his amazing Alaska trip. But listen, guys, he started rethinking his financial plan after the crash of 2008 because he is the co-founder of Cashflow Tactics, Atlas Wealth Solutions. Please help me welcome Ryan Lee to Connect, Share, Prosper. Welcome, my friend.
What's up, guys? Hey, such a pleasure to be on with you today, Chaz. Man, I'm so stoked to have this conversation with you and your community. I can't wait to dive into everything.
Yeah, well, thank you, man. Thanks for taking some time to be with me today. And we're going to spend some time, we'll talk about this at the end, but we're going to spend some time together here in Dallas, September 23rd, 24th, half of the day on the 25th, guys. We'll give you information on that. But if you love what you hear from Ryan today, you can come see us both in person in Dallas. Right, Ryan?
Love it, man. I'll actually be coming home. I lived in Dallas for about 5 years, one of my favorite places in the United States. The DFW, great food, great location, great people.
Yeah. So tell us, when did you live here in Dallas?
So right out of college, man, I got my first job out of college and then moved down to Tucson, Arizona. And I was only down there for about 3 months. And that was my training. And then after that, I got transferred to Dallas, Fort Worth. And I was really nervous about it, right? I mean, I remember I had a friend way back in college and he was just so proud to be a Texan. He held he hung up his Texan flag and kind of intimidated me a little bit. But I came out, I guess it was 2006, but my two oldest kids were born right there in Grapevine. We lived there really for almost 5 years. It was fantastic.
That's great. So when we talked in the introduction about that 2008-ish crash that affected you, you were here in Texas.
Yeah, I was there in Texas, man. I'll never forget that moment. For me, I had a very traditional upbringing, and I kind of messed around as a teenager. I didn't really have my head on straight, and it took me a little bit of time. But when I finally got my life together, all of the social conditioning just kicked in for me. And I remember I knew I had to go to college because that's what you're supposed to do, right? Mm-hmm. And I felt really behind because I didn't start college until I was 23. And so I went through college as fast as I could. I got my 4-year degree in just 2 years.
Wow.
And I didn't really think anything about what I should be doing. That was just the path that you're supposed to go on. And I graduated, and I'll never forget when I graduated. I got my first paycheck. And during college, I was kind of entrepreneurial, right? I had some things going to help pay for college. And I got my first paycheck after college. And after 2 weeks in a college degree, I was making less money in the corporate world than I was on a weekend as an entrepreneur during college. But again, I remember sitting there thinking, man, I should just quit now.
Yeah. That
social conditioning kicked back in. And, I went and cashed my check, and I just decided to climb the corporate ladder as fast as I could, which led me to Dallas. And it really opened up the idea that I couldn't do things traditionally. That 2008 really opened my mind to the fact that I can't be out of control of my financial plan. I can't hope that the stock market works out, that I hold down a job for 40 years. I had to be in control.
What was it like in 2008? And how did it feel? Because I know for me, so I was highly, and people who've listened to the show know this, I was highly leveraged in real estate. I owned a real estate company, mortgage title, had a real estate sales business, owned real estate. And man, 2007 really for me started, and then 2008, 9, and it was actually a couple of years, but it was so heavy every day, every single day, just right. What was it like for you?
You know what? So I wasn't in the real estate world yet at that point. But in 2008, I've always been a really good saver, right? I mean, that's never really been a challenge for me. I've always lived on less than I make. And, once I started climbing the corporate ladder, I thought if I could just save more money, I could earn more money in my 401k and my, stock market investing. And then that would help perpetuate and put me to a position where I could walk away from my corporate job faster. Now, that was very vague and ambiguous in my mind, but that was my strategy up to that point. And in 2008, well, I guess I'll take one back. As I thought back through the whole story, I remember when I got hired and I was filling out my new hire paperwork to put money in my 401k. Yeah. I basically put everything on black because I chose the mutual fund inside of my 401k that had the highest number next to it. And I remember submitting my new hire paperwork to my first financial advisor, my HR director. And
Right.
he laughed, he kind of chuckled, and he said, you're young enough, you can afford to take the risk. And I had no idea what he meant, but in 2008, I realized that the hard way. I lost almost 80% of what was in my 401k up to that point. And you combine that with being in a job that was taking more and more away from me. I felt like I was losing more and more of myself every promotion I took. Like 2008 broke me. I realized I couldn't ride it out for 40 years in the corporate world. I had to find a different way.
So when you're in that moment, right? I mean, I think, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the economic conditions. It can be your own economy, right? Your own business is struggling or whatever it is, right? So it doesn't have to be, somebody could be going through this right now. In fact, I'm sure somebody listening to this is. How do you go from, well, like your logo says, rise up, live free. How does somebody, first of all, where'd that come from? And then how does somebody rise up in that moment when they're just feeling it?
Yeah, man, I think this is kind of crazy. And I won't go into too much of a history lesson, but, for me, as I started diving in, after 2008, I realized I had zero control. I had no idea what I was actually invested in. And without any control, I truly felt like I was gambling. And I realized if I don't have control, I can't impact the outcome of what I'm doing. And if I can't impact the outcome of what I'm doing, I can't predict it. I felt totally trapped. And so I dove into what is actually a pretty scary world of alternative finance and alternative investing. And as I dove into that world, I got consumed, right? I remember every flight that I would take, because I traveled a lot back in my corporate days, and every spare moment I was reading books, listening to podcasts, taking courses, and I was trying everything from stock trading to day trading to Forex to fix and flip. I was trying everything. And no matter what I tried, it still felt the same. Like it was, I had no control, and I was taking a little bit more risk for maybe a slightly better outcome. And it just like, I just felt like financial freedom might be outside of my grasp and my reality.
So where did it go from there? Like, how do you, I'm trying not to get too far ahead of myself here in this, because you've been from afar in many ways a mentor for me of this learning. Like, I feel like I probably had, this sounds a little too arrogant because it's not, I feel like I had about 90% of what you're about, but that last 10% for me was like made the whole 90% even that much better.
Yeah.
And how did you get to that place where that became the knowledge you then and the plan that you put in place?
Yeah, that's a great question, Chaz. So, for me, it all started, I remember there were two books that really shifted my mindsets. So I was at a point in my career at this point where I lived in a different state than my family. So because of the promotions and all the travel, my family still lived in DFW, but they had moved so many times that I had my next promotion up in Indianapolis. And so I was traveling. I was, traveling on Sunday night to be up in Indianapolis. I'd work the full week, and then I'd take a late night flight back on Friday. And while I was doing this, I just realized I can't do this anymore. I can't do it. But I felt really stuck because I'm not a big risk taker, and I couldn't just walk away from a job. And at that point I had two kids. I couldn't do that, right? I just couldn't do that. So I started really getting committed to finding a way out, and everything was pointing me to the direction of real estate. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that was like the first epiphany that I had, that the wealthy, the truly independently wealthy, they're not just doing things better. And that's what the entire financial market is based off of. If you want a 10% return, come over here and we'll get you 11% or a 12%. It's just, let's do this plus one. Yeah. And what I realized is the wealthy aren't just doing things better. They're doing the exact opposite. So that was number one. And then number two, what really opened up my mindset was the objective to build your financial plan and keep score in your financial plan, not off of net worth. It didn't matter how big my 401k balance was. It's based off of cash flow, right? And, up to that point, I remember I had a net worth tracker and I would track my net worth like crazy. If the equity went up in my home, yay, I got a little bit more net worth. But when I really looked at the fallacy behind that, if I wanted to walk away from a 6-figure career and I had $100,000 of net worth, I could spend through that in 1 year and then my net worth is gone. I'm not really free. I'm 1 year financially free. And that book opened me up to doing the opposite. And then I read an old school book by Robert Allen called Creating Wealth. Mm-hmm. When I read that book, he walked through this system of buying 2 houses a year and just funneling everything back into this system for 10 years. And that just lit a fire under me. For the first time, I'll never forget, I was up in I was up in Indianapolis, my hotel away from my family, and I saw the path out. And that was what started me down the path that I'm on now. And ultimately where Rise Up came from is no longer was I going to let things outside of my control my financial destiny. I realized money is a tool. Yes. And it's not good or bad. It's just a tool, and it matters about the individual who holds and wields that tool. It can be used for tremendous good or tremendous bad. But for me, I wanted to be in control and live free. I don't believe in the idea of retirement. Chaz, I'm a lot like you in the sense that I'm a very production-oriented, purpose-driven person. And yes, I love to travel. Yes, I love to be with my family, but I get so much value out of using my unique human life value in the service of other people. And so it's not that I wanted to walk away and sit on the beach for the rest of my life. What I wanted to do is have the permission to walk away from a paycheck and find a way to bring and trade value inside of the marketplace. And my gateway, my avenue to giving me permission to do that was to develop and build enough cash flow inside of my personal financial plan to be able to keep food on the table. I wanted to know if I walk away from a paycheck, can I keep the lights on in my home? Can I feed my family? Can I take care of them? Once I hit that point, that gave me the permission to walk away and to go out and venture down the world of entrepreneurism.
Ryan, this is so good. And I'm about to now I'm like, my juices are flowing. Now I'm super excited because this is the point where when I came across you a while back and the things you're teaching, that's what I was kind of saying. There was this part of it. I'm like, oh my gosh, that validates where my mind has been, what you're saying. And then you opened me up to some new things of how to, 100x what I was looking at. But what you said really resonates with me. And I think people listening to this really need to hear this. One of my very best friends is in the financial services world, sells financial investments. And the hard part for me, that the advice I had been given for so long is very boxed, right? You just put your money here and just keep, like you said, +1, +1, +1. And that just doesn't even make sense to me. That strategy by itself doesn't make sense. And what I love about your approach is it's like a full approach. Just had a conversation with somebody yesterday who said to me, they sat down with a financial advisor who said to them, well, you don't want to invest in real estate. You want to put your money over here. And I said to him, why not? First of all, and I don't even know what the other here is. Why not both? Why wouldn't that even just be an open conversation of both? And so, man, take me through this about the advice we typically get to the advice and the things you're teaching, and where's that big discrepancy? I know there's a lot there. I just gave you
that's a great question. Here, I'm going to give you just a little bit of context on me personally, and this will help you see how we built Cash Flow Tactics. So, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago, I had a business coach, and I still have her. She's amazing. And she had me take a DISC profile. And this, I was really doing a deep dive on myself, trying to figure out who I am. Because once I left the corporate world, you know what that's like being an entrepreneur. I mean, everything. I thought it was going to be these happy dreams of, being on my time. But man, it was so much pressure on me at that point to figure out what was the value I was going to bring to the marketplace. So in this DISC profile, I realized that the highest value that I hold is freedom. It's freedom. And everything I see is through the lens of being free. And this translates, and you've seen this in our education, it translates into everything. And as I looked at it in the financial world, I realized there's a ton of information out there, and that's part of the problem. But that information is very siloed. If you talk to a financial advisor, they hold the hammer of financial advising. And the only thing that they can do is pound the nail of put your money in this investment vehicle. That's all they see. They can't tell you to invest more in your business because it doesn't do them any good to say that your business is your best investment. They can't tell you to go buy real estate because they don't make any money in real estate, right? If you do that. So for us, we wanted to put together a comprehensive course to empower people financially, to help them understand that the number one, you have to operate off a core set of principles. And that's really the foundation of everything we do. We did so much study and research off of the wealthy for generations, for years and years and years. And we found some very, very common traits among them. And that's how we built the principles that we operate off today. And this is why you can say, Chaz, you have been a purpose-driven individual. You found so much of what we share. We didn't invent anything. We just organized it in a way.
It's so good though.
Yeah, I mean, we just organized it to say, okay, this is the foundation. These are the principles. But then we built a comprehensive education package to say, look, to be empowered, you have to know the skills, the mindsets, and the ability to make money. That's how you build certainty in yourself, is knowing how to create and exchange value. So making money, but then after you make money, you don't go to investing. That's not the next step. The next step, you have to keep what you make. And so we built the next module is how do you keep your money, and then how do you invest your money, and underlining everything. If we forget about retirement, because too many people delay their life to one day, and that's the most dangerous word in the entire English language, is one day. So we built a course to walk people through how to live wealthy in the moment as they're building wealth, and it just becomes a lifestyle, not a destination.
So those of you listening who are I did a mastermind last year. We called it Manifesting Millions, the mastermind that we did last year. And you guys who are listening, who are there, you see some of the similarities. We talked about how to make more money, how you manage it, and then how you multiply it, i.e. invest it. And guys, if you could have seen me the day I was watching this stuff, and I'm watching Ryan's stuff, and there's some different terminology, and then he opens the door to this thing and blows it out of here. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. We got to get our people. And so I couldn't be more excited. Guys, you're listening to Ryan Lee on Connect, Share, Prosper, but Ryan is going to join me September 23rd, 24th, 25th in Dallas. We'll put the link in the show notes so people can register. We were talking just before we went live. I told just a few people about this, and we already had 22 people register in less than 24 hours for this event. So it's going to be massive. Yeah. But you talked about principles, and I know what some of those are, but I'd love it if you wouldn't mind sharing your core principles to help people understand what the difference is. Like, I know we're talking about a lot of stuff, but we're not like, okay, well, what is it? What is it? What is it? But just what are the core principles that they need to understand to give them a taste of it?
Love that. We named cash flow tactics very intentionally, because so much of what's out there is just this salesy hype, rainbow in the sky type of pitch. We wanted to be tactical. We wanted our company to come in and to be based off of results. People can come in, orient themselves and align themselves with the principles that we're going to talk about right now, and get results that change their life. So the four principles, and this is the best part about it, no matter who you are, no matter when I talk to you, we can come back to these four principles and constantly realign ourselves and move forward in a very cohesive way. So number one, and this came out of Rich Dad Poor Dad, but the number one is, our mission is financial freedom in 10 years or less. Time and life is too valuable to say one day and wait till I'm 65. We want it in 10 years or less. So if it doesn't fit that framework, it doesn't apply to what I'm going to share right now. So number one is, you cannot save your way to financial freedom.
Right.
And, Robert Kiyosaki in his book says savers are losers. What we say is 97% of traditional financial advice is dangerous, misleading, or wrong, because it won't get you free in 10 years or less. It's not that, if you put your money in a 401k, 30 years, 40 years from now, you're going to have more than you put in. That's a given, but you won't be free. So our goal, the first thing is, we're going to focus on the 3%, which is not doing things better, doing the exact opposite. So number one is savers or losers.
Let me stop you really quick before you go to number two. Yeah. Guys, are you hearing what he just said? In 10 years or less. And I think that's, for me, number one, that's what got my attention, because to your point, it's always been plus one. If I just had enough time, if time exceeds it, you'll get there. And I'm like, no, I'm not high D on the disc profile. Yeah. I don't want 40 years to get there. How do I get there in 10 years or less? So guys, I hope you're paying attention to what he just said. And now number two.
And in our webinar and in the courses that we do, you don't have to take my word for it. We do the math with you. You can do your own math. It is financially impossible if you're putting your money in 401ks, mutual funds, and that kind of stuff. Best case scenario, it's a 30 to a 40-year game. Best case scenario. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about 10 years or less, You can't save your way to financial freedom. So that's number one. Number two is we need a way to keep score, right? And this always blows my mind. I sit down and I talk to people and I ask them, how do you know if you're winning inside of your financial plan? And because we've been trained, taught, and educated that we just put our money in one day, it's all going to work out. No one can look at their financial plan and in a moment say, yes, I'm on track. Yes, I'm winning. And it's because everyone uses net worth as the metric to say, am I winning? And when we go back to what we want, right? We want to own and control our time. If you have $100,000 net worth and you have $100,000 income, how free are you in time? You're 1 year financially.
Right.
After that, right, you're back to work trading time for money. So the second principle is we have to base our score off of cash flow. And this becomes a really winnable, measurable game. Cash flow greater than expenses. And the cash flow has to be passive. And then it's just a matter of how long does the cash flow last? How passive will it be? And how much cash flow do I need compared to my expenses?
Love that.
Look at that at any moment in time and say, I'm 20% there. I'm 30% there. I'm 50% there. I'm winning. I'm on track. So that's the second principle, cash flow greater than expenses. For the sake of time and discussion, the third principle are the ways that we stay focused on. Remember, the 3% of assets that actually work. We call it the core four and the four pillars.
Yep.
And this narrows our focus in. I think one of the most dangerous things that we've been taught in the world of finance is this idea of diversification. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like the holy grail, right? I mean, everyone in the financial world wants to tell you to diversify. And if we've ever thought about that, why is that the case? Chaz, why do you think? Why are we told to diversify?
I think because number one, people don't trust the things they're putting their money in and their time in, right? Yeah, go ahead.
No, you got it, man. I mean, trust is the key there. We call it control.
Yeah.
If you don't control, like I didn't control my 401k, if you don't control what you're invested in, you have to diversify. But if you look at people like Warren Buffett, right? Warren Buffett says diversification is protection against ignorance.
I love that.
If you want to be financially free, if you want to truly rise up, you have to be in control. No one will care more about the success of your financial plan than you. So the core four and the four pillars gets you laser focused, not diversified, but focused on the few things that actually work. And then we help you build a system on top of that we call a game plan to say, okay, look, you know where you're going. We know what financial freedom means. We can measure that. Then we pull it in a lot closer. And we like to set up our game plans as a series of 90-day targets. What's the first thing you need to do? What's the second thing you need to do? And as you step in with control and start knocking down your targets, we build momentum into your life. We build momentum into your financial plan. And we call it collapsing time. We take what takes most people 30 to 40 years and we help them do it in 10 years or less.
What's so fascinating is, and you guys will dive deep into this at the mastermind. What's so fascinating about this is I took the core four and the four pillars, and I looked at our own business too, because we sell territories, right? And I looked at that and said, can I put my own business up against those? If I was outside investing in it and look at that as a model of value to the people who are investing as partners, man, first person that went through like, oh my gosh, that's why this investment makes so much sense in this business. As you said, business is one of the best investments.
Yep.
And it helped me get people right on board from the investment side, not just the I'm excited stage of it. So you already helped me there in my own business by sharing those.
That's because a business is one of the three assets that has all four pillars. Your business, if you're a business owner, yeah, man, your ability to produce and make money is your best investment. Whether you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, or we call it an intrapreneur, you have to be entrepreneurial minded. Whether you're playing in someone else's game or you're running your own game, how do you create and exchange more and more value? And your ability to make money is your best investment, because it builds a level of certainty. Because Chaz, if everything fell down around you, like if all your real estate crumbled to the ground, which you've experienced, if whatever it is, if it fell apart around you, you know how to rise up, how to step up again tomorrow and go out and create and exchange value. And that's what builds certainty inside of a person's life. And America, and this is where we go way back and get all historical, America was built off of entrepreneurs. It was built off people that knew how to create massive value in a very narrow niche and exchange that value with other people that created value and were entrepreneurial, solution oriented. That was the type of people that came to this country and built this country from the beginning.
And I think the thing is, Ryan, is, and for those of you listening, I know, I can already see in my mind's eye, people who are listening to this going, now I see why the two of you are like, the things you're saying are like almost things I've repeated, and I love it. I love it. I love it. guys, this is why Ryan and I are doing this mastermind together. He has helped me so much get clarity, which has given me power to my own plan by having that clarity. And I think the thing that was hard, and maybe this is hard for people to hear, is that there's so much, and I don't want to say bad advice. I mean, it's bad in the sense that it can lead you down the wrong path, but it's well-intended, I think, from people sometimes who care, but it's the best they know. And so sometimes I think when people hear this information, they think, shoot, that's not what I've heard my whole life.
Yeah.
Well, that's why you're not on the right path, because you were given the wrong information all this time, or well-intended by those who loved you, but they didn't know any better.
Totally. And we call it goldfish advice, right? I mean, you know, I can't remember the guy, but in his commencement speech, there was this guy that gave a speech on goldfish swimming in a goldfish bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there were two younger goldfish that were brand new in the goldfish bowl and an older goldfish that had been there for a long time. And as these goldfish swam by each other, the older goldfish turned to the two younger and said, "Morning, boys, how's the water?" And the two younger goldfish got this confused look on their face, and they swam by a little bit longer. And then one of them turned around and said, "What the hell's water?"
Right.
And most people,
That's exactly right.
I mean, most financial advisors, their best intention, they're the best advice they can give you. They're giving you goldfish advice because they don't know any different. If everyone around you is putting their money into a 401k, well, naturally, that's what you should do.
Mm.
So, and they're giving you the same advice that they're probably following themselves, but just because that's the advice that's given. I mean, if you look at the elite people in any, I mean, if we take our financial hat off for a minute and just look at life, like the people that we admire, the people that have achieved a level of excellence in any area of their life, they haven't done what the crowd has done. They've done the exact opposite. But yet somehow in the financial world, we put on this average. I mean, everything's based off of your average rate of return. That's what the stock market performs and measures against, is the average rate of return. So if we go down the average path, the best we can expect are average results. If you want something different, it's not a +1 game, it's the exact opposite. And so that's goldfish advice, is just helping us put a good terminology on. Yes, it might be a friendly neighbor or an uncle or a parent, but guys, if you want something different, you have to rise up, take control, learn for yourself, and do the exact opposite.
So much good stuff. We could spend so much time. That's why we're going to spend 2.5 days together.
Wait.
Okay. So give everyone listening, what's like one big financial tip, one advice to, whether it be making more money, the way they manage their money, like what's one big thing that is pretty simple to go implement right away that you think could really help somebody who's listening today?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, there's a couple things. When we talk about the game plan, you know, this is the key component, is taking the principles that we talk about, taking the information we talk about and applying it to your life, because everyone has their own situation, right? Your kids might be in college. You might be running a business. You might be, you know, X amount of dollars in student loan debt. So how do we apply the principles to you? And I think there's two ends of this. One of the best things is getting a sense of just absolute determination. In 2008, when I lost 80% of what I had saved, that was the first thing that started to push me over the edge. The second thing was, shortly after that, I'm living up in Indianapolis. My family still lives in Dallas, and I'm commuting back and forth. And I thought, you know, I could do this maybe for 5, 10, 15 more years. I could still do this, right? But I'll never forget, maybe 2 months after the stock market really crashed, my wife called me up while I'm up in Indianapolis, and she was crying on the phone. And my oldest son, who was 4 at the time, needed an emergency open heart surgery. And that moment, guys, I just felt like a complete failure. I felt like a failure as a provider because I lost all the money in the 401k. I felt like a failure as a husband. I don't even live in the same state as my family. And I'm telling myself I'm doing this for them. And, you know, I just felt like a failure all along the way. And this really catapulted me from going from being motivated to do something different to being absolutely determined. So that's number one. You have to be like, to go against the grain, to do the exact opposite. Motivation has a battery life to it. You might be motivated for a week, 2, maybe a month, but when you get determined, you have this resolute fire inside of you that it doesn't matter. You are going to do whatever it takes. And so the biggest investment in everything we talk about is you. It's who you become in the process. So find a sense of determination, not just motivation, but a sense of determination. And sometimes life has to punch you in the face to get it. Sometimes people can find that on their own.
Yeah.
So that's number one.
Yep.
Number two, I would say, and this is where so much of financial advice kind of, you know, it's all based on these big goals. We hear, you know, people saying, hey, 10X everything.
Yeah.
That's good. I like having big goals. But where, you know, the rubber meets the road is you have to get absolutely honest and clear with yourself about the present moment. The only way we can make changes is if we get clear on where we're at today and the facts of our life. And with that, for us, I mean, you have to look at the facts. How much money are you making? How much money are you saving? Are you living beyond your means? Do you have more debt than you should? Do you spend emotionally? I mean, once you get clear on the facts and you combine that with a sense of just absolute determination, like for me, it's not that it's easy, but we sold our house. You know, I was driving nice cars. I sold my car and I drove a hell damaged Toyota Corolla because for me, I didn't want the payment of my car. I wanted to be free. Once I saw that, I started making some changes to reduce my expenses, throw more money at my game plan. And that combined with getting clear on where I was, clear on where I wanted to go and be determined. That's what really catapulted me.
Gosh, so good. Like, I mean, I feel like this is just coaching for me. Not to mention everyone that's listening, but what I loved, I mean, number one and number two, really. So it's not the answer I was expecting. I think because what most people, when I say, give me a financial tip, you went to mindset in both cases, being determined and being clear with where you are. And that's why I think sometimes we miss, guys, when you're listening to this, I think where we miss phenomenal advice is our mind isn't really open to it. In fact, we go, especially something financial, like you're going to come to a mastermind, which doesn't make sense, but you'll purchase a training, you'll go to a mastermind only to say, well, let me see where they're wrong. Right? Let me see where this doesn't add up to everything I've heard so far in my life versus going, I don't really like where I'm at right now. Why don't I come into this with see if there's something they can teach me? I mean, guys, I teach this stuff and I got on Ryan's course and went, oh, well, I shouldn't say I teach this stuff because you guys blew me away. So let me back out of that statement. I teach a lot of stuff that was foundational to this, but even I was like, oh my gosh, I got to really open my mind to this because it's even challenging some of the thoughts that I had. And I loved that tip. But why do you think that people come in, this is kind of where we'll wrap here, but why do you think people come in and they just can't get clear with themselves of where they are?
Oh man, this is like the deepest rabbit hole of all. I feel like, man, I don't even know how to say this in a very cohesive, concise way, but I feel like whether it's by default or by design, society is conspiring against us. Right? Our attention is our most valuable resource, but today people have the attention span of like 3 seconds. If we don't capture someone's attention in 3 or 4 seconds, they're gone to the next thing. They're scrolling through Facebook, whatever it is.
So true.
And if you look at that, like the power struggle behind it, people that understand financial principles who truly own and control their time, you know, whether that some of it's by default or by design, like those people are playing a game that most people don't understand. And they're employing people to say, come in, trade the best years of your life, hoping that it all works out. And if it doesn't, then guess what? You can count and rely on the government who will step in with Social Security and all the social welfare programs to take care of the idea that you don't have enough attention and enough commitment to make a difference in your life. Man, it's, you know, we will never appeal to the masses. We never will. And that's not our goal. Our goal isn't to show everyone how to be free because most people in their mind, they don't want to be free. They want someone to come in and save them and take care of them. But those who are looking for freedom, those who are willing to do the work, because at the end of the day, it's not that it's easy, but nothing in life that is valuable ever comes free. You have to work for it. You have to earn it. And only at that point do you appreciate it. And that's where this idea of Rise Up came from. It's embodied in who people are. And it's building a life that you care about, but that you work for. And that's what gives you the ability to do hard things, to value what you're doing, and to continue to push forward. So the financial stuff, what we do, it's pretty simple. The tactics are pretty simple. Make money, keep money. There's a very simple way to, you know, it sounds hard in the beginning, you know, how do we use the tax code as a way to eliminate taxes and eliminate the, you know, the biggest wealth destroyer? Then how do we invest money based on cash flow and passive income? But once you combine those two elements, keeping your money and investing it for cash flow, like Chaz, you know, what we do is pretty easy. It takes the mindset to let go of the idea of diversification and then to embrace a very narrow mindset on finance, because at the end of the day, man, no one wants to have the products that we talk about. That's not what people want, but they want what those products will offer them, which is owning and controlling their time.
It's like when I talk to people about business coaching that we do, that no one wants business coaching. They want the result that it brings, right? So, but what about those that say, and then I'll ask you one last question. What about those that say, Ryan, yeah, but if this works so well, why don't you just keep this for, like, why are you out teaching others? Why not just keep it for yourself if it works so well?
Yeah, love that. This is like my pie in the sky dream and vision. Like, Chaz, I believe that everyone in this world has a unique purpose, right? They have skills and talents that are unique to them. Chaz, you can do things that I can't do, and I can do things that you can't do. And the things that you do well and that come naturally to you, I mean, go back to like biblical stuff, the parable of the talents.
Yes.
Right? You have talents that as you exercise those talents, it fulfills you.
Mm-hmm.
It solves problems that other people have. And that service to other people is also fulfilling and validating. And see, as you exercise and live your talents, they multiply, right? And so that's like the whole human experience here is to find our talents, exercise those talents, and multiply those talents, period. That's a good and faithful servant. And as you do that, right, your life is blessed. There's more abundance in your life. As I do that, my life is blessed and there's more abundance in my life. And think about what the world would look like if the majority of the population woke up and they lived a purpose-driven life. That doesn't mean being on a beach for the rest of your life. That's purpose-driven, exercising your talents, your unique talents and abilities. It's a fulfilling life. It's a life based on service. And dollars, again, remember, money is just a tool. Dollars are just a symbol of exchange, symbolizing the value that you've created. So dollars follow value. And man, for me, of course I have something that's amazing and I get so much fulfillment out of exchanging it, and hearing you come back and say, man, this helped me. It helped my business. It helped me help other people.
Mm-hmm.
That fulfills me. That fulfills you. And we're both elevated because of it.
Guys, I'm going to pull back the curtain just for a second. And I'm going to ask you one kind of fun question to wrap it up. Okay. So I'm going to pull back the curtain just a little bit. When I reached out to Ryan, I said, listen, man, love your stuff. We've been talking a little bit here. I'd love for you to come out and do an event. And most people that we talk with about doing events together, I mean, look, they see an opportunity to get in front of, just like a lot of people doing business. They say, hey man, I'm $50,000. I'll come do your event, whatever it is. Man, what I really respected about you is you said, let's just make it work. Let's make it work. What works for you, what works for me, as long as we can agree, let's make it work. And I just want to tell you that, even publicly, to everyone to hear that, because that's pretty rare. And it tells me the genuine purpose behind your message. So that's just me saying thank you to you for just saying, hey, let's make it work. Let's figure it out.
Appreciate that, Chaz. You've built a stage and a community and a following that there's just as much value being exchanged on your end. I get to come talk to people that I wouldn't have talked to any other way. So
yeah. All right. So here's my fun question. I ask every guest this question. I think in business, often we have to balance this sort of confidence, ego, like not get too right. But this is the time you get to be like really proud about something. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, in business, when has been your proudest moment in business? Something you accomplished, whatever it is. What's the proudest thing you're the most proud of as a business owner that you've accomplished or done?
Oh man, that's awesome. I love that question. Honestly, like what gives me the most, what I'm most proud about is the course that we've created and the lives that it's impacting. But Chaz, for me, I believe that God speaks to each one of us, and God gives me a unique revelation, and like the way I can see and connect the dots are different than other people. And for years, Chaz, I'm going to just hold this up if we're on video.
Yeah.
For years, I've filled out these journals with just all of my ideas. And you can see, I mean, there's just page after page of drawings and descriptions and all this kind of stuff. And I have tons of them in my closet. I just fill them up. And I didn't have anything to do with them. I didn't know what to do with it. And it's really hard because I feel like if I couldn't get these revelations out, they would kind of stagnate to a certain, point. And, what we did is we created a course where we just sat down and said, from comprehensively, what are all of the things that just connect all of the dots? And man, putting that course together, you've been through it. It's unlike anything else out there.
Yep.
Pretty comprehensive, and we couldn't shut our mouths once we opened them up. I mean, there's a lot. that represents years of just study and writing things down and trying to connect dots in a meaningful, cohesive way for my life and for other people's lives. But getting that course out there was just a monumental feat. And then seeing all of the feedback as other people have gone through the course has been really, really fulfilling.
Yeah, man. Sorry to feel like I was distracted. There's literally a car accident that just happened right outside my office. And it's a parking lot, but they just crashed right into each other. So I was a little distracted.
No good.
But let me put the exclamation point on that. My friend, you should be proud of that because it is I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, courses, events. I'm a student of just whatever I can get my hand in. And it is literally one of the best things I've ever done. I binged your course. I'm kind of like that, but that was what I did. I sat down and watched. My poor wife, man, she may not be your biggest fan right now because I sat down one weekend and I just binged that whole course. No. It's good, you guys, and we'll give you information about that course at the mastermind event, September 23rd, 24th, and last half day on the 25th. We are going to add that in the show notes. We're going to get you that information. Please come join us. It will sell out. And Ryan, man, just can't thank you enough for all the value and wisdom you brought to this. And I know we barely scratched what we could just in this time, but thank you again for being on Connect, Share, Prosper.
Well, Chaz, it was an absolute pleasure. Love your audience. Love the message that you're putting out there. So thank you for inviting me today, man.
Thank you, man.